على سيدنا محمد اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد.
Sunday, inshallah. Sunday evening. Inshallah. Dr. Badi came with Dr. Anas for a separate program. Yeah.
Communication.
Yeah, so that's Dr. Badi from Mauritania. There is something called International Students of Islamic Psychology. ISIP. It's an international organization for Islamic psychologists.
I made it established.
You established, right? 1996. Yes. Yes, that's what I thought.
We select, I am the general secretary and
MashaAllah.
we select Dr. Badi,
Rahmatullah alayhi.
to be the president.
Yes. That's MashaAllah. MashaAllah.
And there is Dr. Roznani, Dr. Mustafa Ashwin, and Dr. Khan.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, this is the
Wonderful. Wonderful. MashaAllah.
we started the program 3 years, 6.5 years.
Yes.
All of a sudden we left. The next nobody take care of that. I went to US
Yes.
and I asked Jamal to register this organization in the United States.
Yes.
We started it in the 8th of September. What?
Oh.
As after 3 days.
La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah.
After 3 days. We named them lawyer, we named everything, So, register it in USA. But subhanallah, something.
Subhanallah. Alaykum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, so this is the introduction of Discourse analysis held today. This is an event organized by the Department of Sociology, Anthropology, Department of Communication, and Department of Psychology. So I would like to welcome the delegates, respected Dr. Omar Hisham Al-Ali, and also Professor Nizar Alani to this session. First of all, we would like to cut short this intellectual discourse because the intention is to visit the late Professor Kamal in Bali.
Yes.
So we will be allocating around 10 minutes for each speaker to say something. And first of all, before we get into our agenda, I would like to invite our Dean, Professor Dr. Shukran Abdul Rahman, to give welcome remarks.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Amin. Amma ba'd. Thank you, Dr. Jismawati. Please have a seat, Dr. Jismawati. My beloved Professor Dr. Nizar Alani and wife, Dr. Omar Tariq, our colleagues, Dr. Azizan, Dr. Azlan, and younger lieutenants as well. Right? And also viewers online, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Indeed, we are very delighted to have you back, both of you, academics in the Kulia. I think right from Talijaya until Bomba. Alhamdulillah, we have learned a lot from you then and now in the conference, and we'd like to continue learning from you, Professor Nizar. Right. We wish we could have longer time today, but as some of the friends that we might have another reunion in Bali to offer our last respect to our beloved Professor Muhammad Kamal Hassan, who has done a lot to this university. I mean, he is another august figure to all of us. While we were remembering the late Professor Emeritus Abdul Hamid yesterday, we received message at the same time. So it was double sadness to all of us in our yesterday. Yeah. Right? So may Allah forgive them, may Allah grant them rahmah, right? May Allah reward them to whatever good deeds that we do as their students, inshallah. So with that, thank you again, Professor Nizar, and I pass you back. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, thank you, Professor Dr. Shukran. Without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Omar Hisham Al-Ali from IKI Academy, USA, and his talk is titled Islamophobia in the United States. Please welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. It is such a pleasure to be back here at SOCA, at IIUM. Colleagues who used to be chairperson to current chairperson, mashallah, building on the great efforts. And my problem, my issue, my concern as a Muslim in the United States and as an Islamic sociologist and Islamic anthropologist is the effects on our community from Islamophobia. And these effects have been very negative, as you know, especially on our sister, because the identification as a Muslim is much clearer from our sisters, although brothers, of course, are very affected as well. So since, as you know, September 11th in the United States, but events in other European countries as well, the hatred of Islam and the hatred of Muslims has become so severe. It existed before, but it has been multiplied, especially by governments, and especially in the name of the so-called global war on terror. As you know, with war, people become victims, innocent people become victims. So people like us, especially who are scholars, become in a group that is considered bad and hated and negative. Now, as scholars, it is at least in some ways easier for us to defend ourselves And mashallah, brother, you studied law as well, in addition to sociology. So you know that legally there are ways to defend yourself. But how do you defend yourself when the newspapers and the satellite channels and the television stations are saying bad things against you? It is very hard, if not impossible, to change what the reporters are writing. And sometimes, because I have many friends who are reporters, including Muslim reporters, they write good things, but the people on the top, the main editors of the newspapers, magazines, websites, or the owners, they change what has been written. So you see, for example, when a white American racist, he went to a hotel in Las Vegas, one of the most famous cities in the world for gambling. And he took many, many guns into his hotel room, and he killed a big group of white Americans who were at a concert. So the media refers to this person as a gunman. Yet, when a Muslim went to a gay nightclub, dance club, and killed many Americans, he is referred to as a terrorist. And we have been contacting the media and telling them this kind of irresponsible journalism is not only hurting us, the Muslim community, it hurts everybody, and it disgraces and it degrades journalism. And that is completely unacceptable. So what I would like to leave you with today is you are the leaders in addressing Islamophobia through your teaching and through your courses, mashallah, here at the International Islamic University Malaysia, which is one of the great world leaders in providing the positive image of Islam, but not just the image, the content. Because as you know, many people are not satisfied with how you look. What they are really going after is what is in your heart and what is in your minds. So may Allah bless you all for the great efforts you have been doing and continue to be doing to help the Muslim community worldwide. Thank you.
Okay, for the second speaker, we would like to welcome Professor Dr. Nisa Al-Naim to deliver her talk.
Bismillah walhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah I read from my meeting that I am going to talk about Islamic psychology. I have some comments about the term itself. There is no Islamic psychology. If we accept Islamic psychology, so we have to accept Christian psychology and Jewish psychology and Voodoo and Buddha and etc. etc. No, it is one psychology. It's a science. And I will explain later how we can add the Islam to the psychology. But it is a psychology, only psychology. It's a science of studying the behavior of the humankind and his mental process. That is the definition which all the students of psychology agree on. Studying the behavior of the human son and his mental process. So what is the problem? The problem is not in the definition. The problem when we want to explain or judge the behavior of the human science, we as a human, we will differ in them. Why we differ? Of course we differ, because different backgrounds, different beliefs, different point of view, different experience, So everybody will get, his point of view on that event or that behavior to judge it. Because the difference is the background, the theory, the belief, everything, he will use it to judge this event or this behavior or this form. So we are human and we, subhanahu wa ta'ala, made us different. سبحانه وتعالى said ولا يزالون مختلفين ولذلك خلقهم. The people will till the last day of this life, they will be different. And this is why subhanahu wa ta'ala created ولذلك خلقهم. So we are different. If I took this map and put it here in the middle, and let us assume that we are a very professional hand drawer artist. And I will give everybody here a paper and pencil, and I ask him to look at this mic in the middle and make his drawing. Do you think that all the drawings will be the same? Of course not. Because everybody will look through this, angle. So this is the perspective. This is the perspective. So different perspectives and different drawing, but for one thing. Exactly, we go to psychology. When we have a problem, psychological problem, we have behavior. Let us talk about behavior or mental science. Process. So when the problem, the behavior is the same. But we as a human, we are different. So this is why we look at this in different way and make our judgment about it in different ways. And that's what we call in psychology perspectives. From 1879, that is the first year when the psychology was born in Leipzig University in Germany, in 1879. Till now, around 45 years, that's the history of the psychology. We have 6 different perspectives. We have 6 different perspectives. 3 of them passed away. The first one is the analysis, psychological analysis, Freud perspective. And the second is the Gestalt, and that is German perspective. And the third, maybe didn't pass away now, but he is in his way, the behaviorism, that is the American psychology. Now, what we have still alive, the cognitive psychology, the human psychology, and the biological psychology. And we have a small baby in the history of psychology named cross-cultural psychology. That is a newborn, a baby as a perspective. So when we talk about the perspectives, we should talk about why are different. For example, the cognitive and or behaviorism we start, and the analytical psychology, both of them one against the other 100%. It's not only differ in some ways or differ in some points of view. No, different totally. The Gestalt talk about the brain and the mind. And they took the mind is everything and the wholeness. The wholeness is the mind. And the behaviorism, they don't accept the mind. The concept of the mind, they don't accept it. And Skinner, one of the big founders of the behaviorism, he said in 1932 in the APA, American Psychological Association, meeting in 1932, he said, anybody will talk about mine, I will shoot him. Anybody will say, or just to say mine, I will shoot him. Because they don't accept the concept of the mind. There is no mind. So this is why these perspectives are different and constant at the same time. But different, let us talk about different perspectives. Now, all these 6 or 7 with the baby perspectives based on naturalism. That's their philosophy. One philosophy, naturalism, means the nature being by itself or by chance. So no creator, no anything, to be, the reason or the cause of this nature. And this nature, or there's dialectic and there's levels. And both of them and all the perspectives of psychology based on this philosophy, it means they have only one dimension to explain or to talk about the behavior, human behavior, is what they said it should be when you want to explain any behavior or any mental process. You should put in your mind 2 things: sense and see. Sense and see. الحس والمشاهدة. And through only these things, and through the lab, and through the experiment, you can talk about the behavior, to explain the behavior, the human behavior, and his mental process. So the second dimension, الروح, the spiritual dimension, is missing. There is nothing about it. Nothing, 100%, nothing. When they get some problem, because they have to explain it to the people, and they cannot, they say, no, this is out of psychology, parapsychology. This is parapsychology, not psychology, because they can't explain it. For example, the telepathy or psychokinesia. They cannot, through their naturalism, they cannot explain anything, and they don't, found any reason or to give the result of that one. This is why they stopped here and they said, okay, this is out of our science. This is parasite. Why? Because they don't have the mentality or the reference. They will go, or in their background, only the naturalism. Anyway, I am not here to explain the 6 or 7 perspectives, but now we have to add, as a Muslim ummah and as a Muslim scientist and a Muslim psychologist and anthropologist and sociologist, we should talk about Islamic perspective to psychology. Islamic perspective, not Islamic psychology. Islamic perspective. We want to add a new perspective to these 6 and explain to the people, especially in the West and the United States, in specific, to tell them that there is another perspective. That is Islamic perspective for the psychology. The triple IT, I started this project here in Malaysia with my colleagues in 1996, 97, 98. But anyway, I have got no problem that we cannot do, we didn't do anything. Now, the Triple IT asked me to start this project again and alone. In the past, I tried to find 5, 6 people, to take the dimension, because this is a big, huge, project, very huge. Anyway, I made it in this way. I started this project with 5 chapters. Chapter 1, or I named it the modern psychology, the concept, the crisis, the facts, and the alternative. In the first chapter, around 220 pages, I talked about the concept, everything about psychology, definition of psychology, perspective of psychology, theories of psychology, history of psychology, what is the new field and new projects for the modern psychology, etc. It's more than 20 pages. The second one is the crisis. I talked about the crisis of psychology, modern psychology. We are in a big crisis, not a crisis one, no. I mentioned only 10, but there are more than 22 crises. But the main crisis, as I mentioned in my book here, in my project, is 10 crises. Crisis in theory, crisis in perspective, crisis in methodology, crisis in explanations, crisis in criteria, crisis in standards, etc. 10. So we have psychological, the experimentation and experimental design. All these big crises, and through the big psychologists in the United States, actually, I named it American psychology. Really, it is not, I explained very, more than 30 pages, why it's American psychology. In the United States, 92% of the textbooks of psychology are American. 92. The whole world, 8%. And in the 6 perspectives, except the Dutch government and the analytical, and they are passed well, the others are American. The test and measurement, the test and the skills of the human science, either intelligence and aptitudes, special attitudes, special aptitudes, interests, etc., personality, all these 94.2% created in the United States. Okay? And there are around 620,000 PhD in psychology in the United States, and around 70% psychiatrists. So when you look at the psychology, it's American psychology. And this is why they are, according to their philosophy, according to their research, according to their understanding, because they, the plant is one plant, but different, fruits. No, now, and the second, I talk about the crisis. The crisis around 260 pages. The 10 big crises, and especially I focused on in April 12, 2022, the APA, the American Psychological Association, made a seminar, and they collected 106 big psychologists across all of the world, but 92 of them are American. and the international only 14 or 15. One. And those the 15 from Canada and UK and Germany, it's not there. Either from our area or no, of course. And they talked about the crisis of the psychology and what we are going to do in the future for our psychology. Our psychology is a big crisis. So we have to talk about it, to solve it, to try to solve it, to at least to give some solution for that. After that, I talked in chapter 3, the biggest and the chapter, about the facts on the ground. I took the United States as an example. And I tried in this chapter, or this volume, because the book will be in 3 volumes. In this volume, I talked about what did the American psychology do for the American human. If we have millions of specialists and we have trillions of funds for that, and we have all the textbooks, almost all the research, almost all the journals, for 91% of the psychology of journals are in the United States. So it's American psychology again and again and again. So now, okay, I took it as an example. What did the American psychology do for the American human? I started by the psychological disorders and disease and the family. American family is there.
Family, very important.
Is there, and there is a family in the United States. And the sexual raping, killing, mass shooting, crime, abduction, etc. Also, I took 8 big, things in the United States. I tried, especially the American family, because this took more than 50 pages about the American family. Because at the end, there is no American. There's no. We don't talk about the exceptions. There are some family, but we are talking about general. All the facts, which I put in this chapter, I got it from government statistics and facts. Only from the government. Nobody will tell me this is right, this is not correct, and no. This is the FBI, this is the DCD, this is all our government, associations. And all my facts and all my figures, and all my planning and drawing and etc. Statistical draw, all came from this government association or government offices.
Very meticulous and verified. Nobody can question it.
Yes. At the end, I found that the American, because I put the number of psychologists and books and the journals and finance in one way, and I put the crime, raping, family, etc. in one way. I found that this is up and this is up, and nothing. And nothing. So in the crime, the United States number 1, across all of the world. In raping, it's number 1, across all of the world. In mass shooting, they are number 1 across all of the world. In etc. So why all these psychologists, the million of psychologists? Why these billions? For what? For what if we cannot do anything to our families? We can do nothing for our adolescents and children. You know, back to 50 years ago in my studying psychology in the United States. The psychology of disease.
He needs to go.
Yeah.
Can I leave you?
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Yeah, because they've tested.
Sure.
Yeah, but Professor Arani, what you have just mentioned just now is something that we are struggling here as well, to right position psychology from Islamic perspective. I think Dr. Jismawati has recently made an adamant stand that we are not going to use the term Islamic psychology. So you are here reinforcing what she's doing. I think you'll be commenting on that. And I would like to tell you that we are also working so hard to again, I'm using the word right position psychology, rather than going with the mainstream, which wish to use Islamic psychology. Like the trend in the world now is to use Islamic psychology. I mean, without doing justice to the discipline and without doing justice to the sources, which is Islam as well.
That's true.
Right? So we'd like to join force with you, Professor Alani, in your hard work on psychology from Islamic perspective agenda. Right? So excuse me, Professor Alani.
A lot of people.
Yes, and then leave you with the rest of my able colleagues. Okay, we'll go together. Okay? We'll go together.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Sunday. Anyway, I try to finish my work. There are the fourth value is the autonomy. I put it in 2 chapters. One chapter, the theoretical background, and the second, the practical way to deal with the Islamic perspective for the modern psychology. This project, inshallah, will finish in 2 or 3 months, and it will be in 3 volumes. I hope, inshallah, I will put at least to point the way, this is the way anybody will go in this way. Of course, you can add, you can take, you can anything they can do. But this is the way we should look at the psychology, not as Islamic psychology, not Islamization psychology. No. We should add to the people in the West a new perspective, mean Islamic perspective for psychology. I ask subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah.
Inshallah khair. Barakallahu feek. مجهود عظيم. Amazing effort.
Thank you so much, Prof. Nizar Alani. I am from the Department of Psychology, but I had no chance or opportunity to learn from you, sir. I graduated in 1994. Okay, I think Shukran had a chance to learn from you. Okay, thank you so much, Prof. That is the stand that the department is taking now. We are looking into psychology from a neutralistic perspective and not using the terminology of Islamic psychology. As of now, we are championing the term of science of the soul, a direct translation from the term ilm an-nafs. So that is the thing. So perhaps after this, we still want to learn from you, sir, with regards to this context of looking at psychology from Islamic perspective somehow. Okay, so perhaps I can have like a short question and answer session. Any question to be posed to both our respected speakers, Dr. Umar, with the issue of Islamophobia in the United States, which is a true issue and very much aimed to be drafted in, right, as well as to Professor Nizar Alani in terms of the Islamic perspective of psychology. Any question, any concern?
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Dr. Sona Mustari. I'm working as an assistant professor in the Department of Sociology and Anthropology. So this is a very general question. Actually, we are only three of us here. To have made this session more live, just asking. So my question is to Prof. Umar first, as he is our family member.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So my question to Dr. Umar, not a question actually, this is just to know about America, that he was talking about the media,
Yes.
he was talking about that some Muslims and some Muslims by name only.
Yes.
Yeah, so my just to know that, so this kind of situation, so is there any thing means that the number is increasing among the Muslims?
Yes.
That means to be the Muslims by name. So the number is increasing, means this situation has any impact on the Muslims to be the Muslims by name only.
Yeah.
So how, what you are doing, those who are working on these situations as an academic, what is your role? What you people are doing there means what attempts you are taking to deal with the situation, with the government, with the agencies, with the society, what is what you are doing?
Yes.
So just to know that.
Sure.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
May Allah bless you. This is an important question because the problem is academics like myself, we do lots of talking, but not so much doing. But people like Dr. Nizar Al-Ani are able to influence the Muslim community in a positive way. So there has been a big emphasis to raise our children to be courageous and to show their Islam in a positive way. Not saying, I am superior than you because I am Muslim, but I am part of a tradition that is based upon the Quran and Sunnah, which makes me able to understand the world by combining revelation and reason. The problem with many Muslim youth, young women and young men in the United States, is they learned Islam as a culture, not as a religion. So they are Muslim because they are Bengali or Iraqi, not because of access to the original sources of the Quran and Sunnah. So what we are trying to do through camps and through conferences and through magazines is to show the Muslims, especially the young Muslims, that Islam, number one, you should not be ashamed of Islam, but you should also be prepared that when somebody asks you about Islam, don't get afraid or think it is against you, but think of it as somebody who wants knowledge and you respond with knowledge. So first they have to have the knowledge, if not from their parents, then from Islamic schools and the masjid, and then to treat anybody who asks them with respect, even if the person says, you Muslims are terrorists, you're crazy, you wear this rag around your head, you are ignorant, you are backward, you say,
Thank you for your question. May I share with you something of my tradition, if you don't mind?
Thank you so much, Dr. Moore. I hope it clarifies your issues just also here. Professor, with regards to this context of looking at psychology from Islamic perspective, the dilemma right now is when people, they try to sort of like compare between the Western perspective with the Islamic perspective, trying to look for perhaps similarities, so on and so forth. The truth is, how should we go about? How should we go about it at the departmental level, so how we are approaching the discipline from a fresh perspective, meaning that we clear our mind from the Western perspective and definitely look into the original source, which is the Quran and Sunnah. We are looking at the conception of human being from a fresh perspective, the Islamic perspective, with using the Quran and Sunnah. Is that the right thing? So we won't even use the terminology of to integrate something of the sort. Is it the right way of doing things?
Yes. I need a plan to the triple IT, what we are going to do after I finish the book. And we have two plans in the triple IT. The first plan that in summer, after we finish the book, inshallah, in 2-3 months, in the end of the summer, we will collect from across all of the world more than 40 to 50 psychologists, Muslim psychologists, from especially in Malaysia. We put 4 from Malaysia, 3 from Turkey, 6 from the United States, etc. Between 40 to 50 people, psychologists, to educate them that in for education of fresh perspective. That's plan 1. To give the Muslim psychologists that we created or we put or we finished, established, anyway, anything, a new perspective, and we want to add it to the perspective of psychology. The second plan, to make a center for this perspective, and I mentioned it should be in healing, in IUA. We can recommend very good students, PhD students, from different countries across all over the world, and bring them here and give them the main concepts, either the theoretical frame or the practical frame. And we assist them to make their PhD. We will give them around 100, titles about their PhD studies. All belong to the new or fresh perspective. And should be 50% of them talk about the theory, theoretical background, and the others should take practical. And that experiments, that's a unique experience. As if we are talking about the perspective for the modern psychology, we should follow the same steps, but with different explanation. We are going to go step by step as a psychologist. But at the same time, when we explain the behavior or explain the mental process of the human, at that time, we should look in different way to make our judgment. Who is the normal, who is the abnormal? For example, this is a big problem in modern psychology. Till now, they don't know who is, they don't define who is normal and who is abnormal. We have our standards. We have our references for Quran and Sunnah. And we have our criteria to judge that one. And this is our perspective. If you like it, okay. But after we finish 40 to 50 to 60 PhD dissertations about this theoretical and practical things of this perspective, yes, at that time we will send all these summaries or all these PhD dissertations to the American journals, psychological journals. If we can add 10 to 20, new articles about the Islamic perspective for the modern psychology, at that time we can say we are starting. We are in the first step because we have to go to the American journals and publish our articles about this perspective in their magazines. And at that time, we, for example, here or there or everywhere, we can recommend for this example, this conference in the United States, in Canada, in UK, we send 2 or 3 of them. They can, explain the results and the methodology of their articles in there. This is the way how to start, and make it, live on the earth, not to write it and throw it in the shelves of the library. No, it should be alive and very active in his life to go through all the world and, mubashirin in this new perspective. Thank you.
You made my day actually. Okay, thank you so much. I think we come to the end of the session. Thank you so much for the insight given. I wish we can have like a proper session, a longer time given and everything. But due to the circumstance, we have to cut it short. But we learned a lot from you today, and I hope that we can further collaborate with you and still having you to guide us, the Department of Psychology here, for further advancement. Right? So I think that's the end of this session. Let's end our session with the speaker from our hands forwards.
Thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Using her and she's with us for us to calculate the content of the books and not changing the that's
Can you show me this paper?
sure. Yes.
I'll give you my opinion.
ICAR.
in agreement.
So this is the
My
number
method.
973-550-560.
How are you, sister? Alhamdulillah. So good to see you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. You will be
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Sunday
Uh,
night.
Tuesday, Wednesday, my paperwork on Tuesday. Alhamdulillah, they lots of good things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we were parenting for gifts. Yeah.
Without the light of the light to be the sounds of the soul that as of now, when I will out zero people we are on the right here.
Yes, I appreciate that. Yeah.
Sam, we should establish a center for Islamic perspective here and those who are spotlights.
Yes, yes. Very important.
We can make the same decision, particular of that person. Put their students here, take their courses and with a institute, even their dissertation. We can recommend the names psychology to be advisable for. That's the way. That's the way.
So that I will do my part, but on just to ensure that we will establish this point of the population. I'll ask you my card.
Omar,
Yes.
Prof, I would like to take this opportunity to mention about our conference.
Oh, yes.
Social issues and development. We thought on May 9th, 10th, so hopefully can you also make it like more online?
Yes.
Online.
Yes.
I will share with you.
Okay.
So, Prof, is that?
Yes.
Okay, we are going to organize another conference soon, okay, organized by the Department of Sociology and Ecology. Yeah. The topic is on social issues and development international conference 2023. So the theme is towards advancing sustainable society. So it will be held on 9-10 May. We welcome all of you both and also the faculty members joining to come back. Come back. But actually the online is on it, it's fully online. So I think everyone from all places can join us. So I will share the
We are having a series webinar series. We call it webinar series Friends from the School. Can we invite you as one of the speakers from? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We go back to the hotel. Yeah.
So,
Driver's here.
is already here.
Yeah, he was sitting there.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Thank you. And so sorry with this. What can we do?
Yeah, this is, yeah,
We plan
Yeah.
our newsletter.
exactly. Alhamdulillah.